Okay, that was a little bizarre. It's a new holder for my phone, and it's got some, I should have known better, some motion sensing gizmo that automatically opens and closes to remove your phone. So as soon as I started the car, it just opened automatically for some reason and dropped the phone. Anyway, this situation with the subway guy is out of control. Out of control. Absolutely out of control. And as usual, the focus on this channel is more so a critique on media than on the stories themselves. So in this case, it's absolutely a critique on media. It's just absolutely ridiculous, the type of coverage that I've seen. I was watching a video, well, yesterday I was watching this Tim Pool debate with Lance, whatever, the guy who loves to speak out of turn all the time. Did a decent job, however. I was surprised. I expected him to just make a mess of it just because of his youth. That's what I think it is. Like, he's immature. He just starts saying stuff. He gets all excited about his tribal politics or whatever. Oh, this and that, and his own, tribe members have to correct him. I've seen more than a few times. Like, no, he didn't do that. Something, right? Anyway, he did a decent job, but man, after the debate, you go on Tim Pool's channel. He's posting videos owning Lance, and then you go on all these left-wing channels, and they're all posting videos about how Lance did such a great job. Here's the interesting fact or reality. They're both correct. Lance absolutely owned Tim Pool on some issues, and Tim Pool absolutely owned Lance on other issues, and you could see the dishonesty from both parties. So there's a discussion about abortion. And, again, if you're a typical left-winger in this country, you have so much hostility towards Tim Pool that you're not going to hear any point that he makes. You just look at him as he's an idiot. Everything he says is dumb. Look at this guy. He's a clown, whatever. Hey, not saying you're wrong, but you've got to listen to what someone says and comment on what they say and the validity or lack thereof of what they say. You can't just have this negative attitude of this person sucks, and then no matter what they say, you're just, again, they suck. And I will talk more about that in another video, but the reality is we've segued into a completely different topic than the topic that this video is supposed to be about. So the subway situation. So Tim Pool, I hear talking about, what does he say? He says the left, he posted a video, I think today he posted it. He said he says the left is siding with the criminal. And he's talking about this violent guy who has to be subdued, right? And there's the left going out there, and they're on the side of the criminal. So what was my problem with Tim Pool's statements? Well, and again, we're not going to really talk about the substance of what happened. This is more a critique of media, right? So Tim Pool simply states that this guy was violent and they had to subdue him, and the left is on his side. The thing is, he didn't in any way make an argument that this guy was actually violent, right? He didn't present any evidence at all whatsoever. He simply refers to him as violent, this violent guy, and the left is siding with him, right? Now, what I want for you guys to get from this video is to be a little bit more discerning on the media that you're consuming, right? So when you watch a video like that and you hear him make an assertion with no evidence that this guy was violent, right away your brain should be thinking, because you're hearing him make this claim, he's putting this adjective on the person, and there's nothing behind it. He doesn't say the guy who punched the lady or this. So the guy's on the train, he's threatening to kill people on the left side. He doesn't say that. He makes no argument whatsoever that the guy was actually violent, other than him using the word violent. Now, potentially someone will watch this video and will tell me I'm an idiot because he was violent, and they will present some evidence. But again, I'm not critiquing the situation itself, I'm critiquing the media coverage of it. Even if the guy was actually violent, the fact that Tim Pool would call him violent without presenting evidence that he's violent is problematic. Someone else will say he did say how he was violent in some other video. The fact that watching Tim Pool's video, I'm not aware of this guy being violent is also problematic, right? I'm a guy who chooses to spend time talking about this stuff, looking into things like this. If I'm unaware of evidence of this guy being violent, then that's problematic. What of the average person who doesn't have the time or interest to watch these videos and engage with this kind of stuff? They're too busy doing whatever else they got going on in their lives. If I, the one who is all obsessed with media and stuff like this, if I'm unaware, and listen, if there's evidence of him being violent, then I'm sure it's not a secret. So if I dig deep enough, I can find it. But the problem is that I have to potentially dig deep to get that evidence, right? Because if that's the case, that means a ton of people watching videos like Tim Pool's video are not going to be aware of this guy being violent or not, but I'm expecting most of them won't even pick up on this problem. They'll watch his video and hear him having a position that opposes the left position, and they'll enjoy and think it's a great video just based on that principle alone. Tim Pool is making a video going against the left. This is great content, great journalism. Thank you, Tim Pool. I love you so much. Let me donate to your channel. That is the level of juvenile political thinking we have in America. And that is what I want to pull people away from. Do not watch a video by Tim Pool or anybody else talking about this guy's violent that does not also, in that moment, give you any evidence whatsoever that he was violent. I'm not saying you got to give the whole story, but at a minimum, say something like, this is a guy who was threatening people and the left is defending him. What does he mean by threatening people, right? Getting into details of what the threats were like would be good, but at least you're saying the person was threatening. You're making that claim, right? If I want to investigate and see whether I agree with you or not, whether he was threatening or not, fine. But at least, I'm listening to what you're saying and I see, okay, so you're saying this guy's violent and you're giving a basis for that claim by saying he was threatening people. Whether that's true or not, or accurate or not, that's to be determined. But at least I'm seeing a claim made and a basis for the claim presented. But instead, in this video, there was a claim made, there was no basis for the claim presented. That should be a major red flag, right? Tim Pool is not new at this. He's been doing it for a while. He has what he does is journalism. I know in this country we have this weird, idea of journalism, and it's one thing. And if you're not doing news reporting standard, then it's not journalism. Like, there's different types of journalism, guys, right? What's that tabloid? That's a form of journalism, right? Journalism is not this one type of thing, right? But anyway, Tim Pool has more traditional type journalist or journalism experience, and he's been doing this for a while. He knows better. So why would he choose to make that claim without basis for the claim? That should be a red flag. Like, okay, is this guy trying to pull a fast one here? Is he telling me the whole story, right? And then when I listen to, left-wing or liberal media talking about this, so again, this is kind of my goal here. I want you guys to have an approach closer to my approach when you're consuming media. I listened to the video from Tim Pool, even though I despise the guy, right? I still hear him out and see if he has anything legitimate to say. So when he says something legitimate, I'm able to recognize it because I'm not blinded by my emotions. But when he said nonsense, I know it's nonsense because, again, I'm listening, I'm analyzing what he's saying. So he makes his claim without a basis for that claim. I'm like, okay, that's problematic. So right away, I'm like, okay, so let me go dig in. He's saying the guy's violent. He's not telling me how he's violent. Let me go see, was he or wasn't he violent, right? So I start trying to look for it. This is kind of the thing that pushed me over the edge. Like, I had to talk about this. I had a hard time finding much information about what really happened on the train. And I'm pretty sure that most people did not have a problem with that, right? If you're on the left, you're watching media that's telling you this guy, society failed him and, he just got killed. He got murdered on the train, and it's a white man and a black man, and he was just trying to, do his thing or whatever, right? That's a very attractive narrative. Most of you, And this, I want to pull you away from this kind of thought process. Most of you just accepted that and you're like, oh man, this is messed up, whatever. And then you hear the liberal media talking about how the right-wing media is calling this guy a hero who they just told you is a murderer. And then that's engaging. Oh my goodness, you get frustrated and you share the video and you're commenting, this is sick, they're right wing, they're sick, they're whatever, they're evil people, right? You get all caught up and you on this train, right? Going far and stop after stop after stop, and you got no idea where the train is going, right? You got no idea where the destination. You sit on the train and you celebrating or whatever you're doing and this and that and so much to say, and you going so far, no idea where the train is going, right? No idea the substance of the story, what really happened, and no interest at all. Most people watching liberal and left-wing media have no interest in what actually happened. They hear the story as presented. This poor homeless guy, you know, who's having a mental episode, society failed him, and then he gets murdered on the train, and he's black, and the other guy is white. Racism, right? You hear that, you get outraged, and that's no interest to dig in or understand what really happened. Right-wing media, same thing. If you're a conservative, you're watching, you know, buffoons like Tim Pool, and he's just on some, the left is defending this criminal. He's a violent criminal, he was violent, and he's a criminal. How was he violent? Are the people that's telling you how he was violent? Right? And if they're not telling you, did you have a problem with that? Did you pause and say, wait a minute, hold up, wait a minute. How are you telling us this guy's violent? And that's the whole basis for your position on this situation. But yet you're not giving us the basis of that specific claim. How was he violent? Tell us how he was violent. I don't trust the left. I don't trust liberal media. I trust you as a conservative, and I'm a conservative. We share similar ideas. However, that doesn't matter. If you're going to say this guy's violent, you got to tell me how he was violent. Let me know how he's violent so I could tell my idiot liberal friends about how this guy was a scumbag and he got what he deserved, or whatever the position is, right? So even as a conservative, I'm sitting there like, listen, you got to tell me what really happened. Don't just tell me he was violent. But that's not how people think. Not discerning at all. You hear rhetoric that goes along with your ideology or whatever, connects with the rhetoric that you've been fed so far, and you just accept it, right? No interest. Right wing, no interest. Was he or was he not violent? No interest whatsoever. Left wing, don't care either. And then what really showed this point is when I started to investigate myself, I couldn't find out whether he was violent or not. Think about that for a second. So now I'm actually, before I wasn't vested in the story, I was more talking about the media talking about it. Now because of Tim Pool's claim, now I'm like, okay, now I got to dig in and see what the hell people are talking about. Was he or was he not violent? I keep hearing this rhetoric. He's violent. Left saying he wasn't violent, right? I can't trust the left, right? Liberal media, left-wing media, I can't trust them. Right? They do another Jacob Blake, and this sounds like a Jacob Blake to me. Second camera angle, nobody want to talk about the second camera angle. Only one camera angle, right? Right-wingers, obviously, it serves their rhetoric to go show the second camera angle. Oh, look what he was doing and this and that, and the police were there, and he wasn't supposed to be there, and the woman had the child in the car, whatever, and the left don't want to tell you the truth, right? Here we have another situation again, and no one wants to talk about what really happened. And then when I start trying to dig in, so this is what I found. Even New York Post, my understanding is a right-wing publication. So I thought they would dig in and really tell us about what happened, the craziness, what this guy was doing, what led to them wanting to restrain him. No, even the New York Post, their story was talking about how, people said he was a nice kid and he was a Michael Jackson performer, and his family said he's not a violent guy and he wouldn't have been violent and this and that. And Jackson, and they showed a picture of him, and they really were like humanizing. And I'm like, wow, the right-wing publication, that's all you're telling me? And I looked at a couple other publications. This is the pattern that I saw. Everybody was talking about the after the fact. Everybody was talking about the after the fact. Nobody cared to dig in or talk about what actually happened to lead us to the situation in the first place. And I don't see the audiences on either side having much concern that the story is not really being told, right? I read a bunch of articles. The articles all start with the man in the headlock, right? They start with the man in the headlock. If you're left wing, you say he wasn't violent, he just needed help, and he just said he wanted to kill himself or something like that. Like, why would you do that, right? But you can see the people saying that did no digging to see, is that really true? What did he really do? What really happened, right? You want to talk about this Marine. My understanding, there were 3 other people that were trying to restrain him. Why did 3 other people? Like, you think about the logic. You want to focus on the Marine. Oh, he's probably a right winger and he's a Long Island, this and that. Okay, what about the other people? Right? There was a train full of Long Island people. Maybe it was a Long Island train, I guess. Right? Long Island train leaving from Long Island. Very like it have a lot of Long Island. Is that the rhetoric? But again, no interest. I don't see nobody on the left digging in what really happened. All they put out is this guy wasn't violent. All he said was this. And the right wing are sitting here glorifying this guy that killed him. They're sick, they're disgusting, they're racist. Right wingers, all they want to talk about is, oh, you know, this guy's a violent guy, without saying how he's violent. I'm not saying nobody said how he's violent, but I heard many times people talking about he's violent without saying how he was violent. And regardless, almost no one is telling the story about what really happened. Let me tell you how journalism works. This is how the story should be told, right? A lot of people were there. This is a major story. So there's a lot of witnesses. Real journalism would involve trying to find people on the train who saw this and hearing their statements. You cannot really tell this story until you have a story that begins somewhat like this. I was on the train heading to work, and there was this guy on the other side of the train. He started screaming. I didn't know what he was saying, and then he got louder, and I heard him say something like, you know, they killed my mama or something like that. And then this happened, and then that happened, and then something else happened. And next thing you know, this guy got up and he grabbed him, and then he was struggling, and then some other guy grabbed him, and then some other guy grabbed him, and this other guy came and he put him in a headlock. And when it happened, you know, I felt that, you know, why was he holding him in a headlock? Or I felt relieved, like, great, he's just doing this guy, because I was scared. Real journalism covering a story starts with how the thing started. What was the first thing that happened where things started to go south? Anyone reporting on a story where the story begins with a headlock is not reporting on a story. They're feeding a partisan audience rhetoric that is the most profitable. If you're on the right, you gotta put this Marine as a hero. He saved the people, and you point out the left hypocrisy. This guy is a hero, and you're demonizing him, and you're going after the criminal. Like, that's what is gonna make you money, right? Doesn't matter what happened, how it started, whatever. Don't even talk about that stuff. Just talk about that the guy was crazy, call him violent, don't say how he was violent, and go after the left and how they're covering it. That's it. Left-wing media, what is a profitable thing? Don't worry about how it started, right? Focus on this guy was poor, and the system failed him, and you know he's black, and the guy was white, and focus on how the right-wing media is celebrating the death of a black person, right? Anybody talking about the story, not starting with how the story started, is not telling the story. They're pushing propaganda to push whatever ideology they're trying to promote on their channels. That, or they're just pushing out the most profitable angle to the story based on the ideology of their audience, pandering to their audience. I want to live in a world or in a country where you can't do this stuff and get away with it. Right now, there should be a major outrage about how this is being covered. Conservatives and liberals alike should be outraged by how this story is being covered by the media. The media should be shaken right now and saying, wow, the people are sick of this nonsense. We've got to shape up, otherwise our businesses are going to be destroyed. Instead, that's not how they feel. They're making money right now. They're getting clicks. They're getting all the engagement. So they're going to do it again and again and again and again. They're going to keep doing it, right? This lying to us, misleading us, doing whatever it is that gets them the most money. We got to accept some responsibility for these things. Stop sending the message to the media that this stuff is acceptable. When you stop doing that, they'll stop doing it. And the media will improve. And our lives will improve. This country will improve. Until then, all the stuff you're complaining about, issues with this country, put some of the blame on yourself. You can't improve things without knowing the truth of what things are in the first place. I can't remove a stain that I'm not even aware of exists in the first place. I can't solve a problem I'm not aware of exists in the first place. This is Debate Me channel. Debate me in the comment section below. Click on the like button, subscribe, smash that bell. Be well. Wake up, people.